Okay, so we started last night, Hadas HaGazel. Hadas HaGazel. Let's pick it up from, we're up to figuring out what are the leaf configuration, I should say, of the Hadas. Let's begin from Tanu Rabbanan. Yeah, well, it's actually we're up to. So it's actually not picking up where we left off. Let's just speak out. We had a machlokes to end yesterday, which is what is considered avos. What is considered braided? We had two shitais. Either braided means you need to have three mamish coming make cane. Now that word cane, by the way, means a base. It means from one place, or it means two and one is enough. And we had two interesting shitas. One shita was bidavka, to go for the two and one, because that lemaisa is what came mipume from his mouth. Another shita says no, that is a hadas hashoite. So we pick it up from there. Tanu Rabbanan. Nashru Roiv Oilov. Now, this is something that happens to the best of them. You know, we could be thinking we're three lines from the bottom. We're like on the, Cholamai day number, I don't know, 4. And you open up your lulav and you look down and what do you see? Your hadassim don't really have that many leaves left. Nashru Roiv Olav. The majority of the leaves fall out. V'nishtayru boy miot, and it's left with a minority. But now let's be careful. It's clear from the case that these hadassim started kosher. They started fine. Now, over the course of Yantif, they fell off. What's the din? V'nishtayru boy miot, says the Gemara. Kosher, it is kosher. Ubilvad. But provided shete avosai kayemes, that the avos, what's the avos? The braidedness of it is mekayim. What does that mean? That means at some level, now this is obviously going to be the $1 million question, at some level it's still braided, meaning it's still covering over the stem, but I think everyone here is thinking the same thing. What do you mean? If the majority of the leaves are off, then how in the world is it still avos? Keep on reading the Gemara.
Rashi says no trey mikol avos.
Oh, so Rashi's trying to understand it, but keep it reading the Gemara. Let's see. Keep it reading the Gemara. It says the Gemara, Hagufa kasha. This is itself a stira. Why? Amrit, first you said Nashurav olav. If the majority of the leaves fall off, it's kosher. Vahadur tani, and then you learned Mulvash de avos lekayemes. Kiva, provided that the avos, the braidiness is still around, says the Gemara. Kivin the natri lehu trey. Again, if Roy fell off, so out of 3, what does Roy fell off mean? 2. If natru lehu trey, if natar means fall off, natri lehu trey, if 2 of them fell off, avos heichi mishkachas la. How is it possible to be avos? The Gemara articulates the obvious kasha that we have a problem. You can't have a roiv of falling off and something still being braided. That's inherently a stira. Everyone got the kasha? But again, if I tell you the majority falls off, then it's not called avos. You're right. That means there's one leaf here, one leaf here, one leaf here, and one leaf here. That's not avos. Avos, by its very definition, means braided. It means at some level it's covered. Says the Gemara, I just don't understand how those two things can simultaneously coexist. So you're right. Well, let's see what the Gemara is going to say.
I was thinking originally roiv means that many of the overall leaves fell, but there's still a few good ones.
Very good, very good.
Make more sense.
So it's really suggesting that when you look at the whole hadas, you could have a majority that fell off, but you might still have 1, 2, 3 full 3 leafers that are there. Which let's see. Amar Abaye, says Abaye mishkachas la. We have this. What's Abaye's teretz? Asa mitzra. So we have a Gishmaka picture. This is not the picture I wanted. That is not the picture I want.
Mishkachasla means we find.
Mishkachasla, very good, it is found. Ba'asa with the hadassim of Mitzrah on the boundaries. What does that mean? That means the hadassim of the boundaries are well nourished. Keep on reading. Dekaimi Shiva Bechad Kina. 7 leaves coming out of 1 point on the stem. Do they have a picture of them over there or no? Yeah, that's a Geshmak one. There you go. I thought there's a bigger one over here.
That's 7.
So the Gemara is saying a Meir Dika Chiddush. Yeah, look over here. It's a Meir Dika picture. This is mamish. You see it blown up for size. The bottom left corner. The Gemara is saying that since it started with 7 coming out of 1 place, Chinotri Arbos. Now let's do the math. We start with 7. Majority fall off. How many of the majority of 7 fall off? 4. Notri Lu Arba. 4 fall off. Pashi Lu Tlasa. You're left with 3. Mayerdik. But now, who yelled out, is that allowed to have 7? Amar Abaye, says Abaye number 2. Shma Mina. You see from here. Hi, Asa Misra. This Hadassim of the boundaries, this Hadassim with these 7 leaves is kosher lehoishano. It's kosher. Says the Gemara, Pshita. What's the Chiddush? Pshita, it's obvious. Why would it not be kosher? Answers the Gemara, Ma'u Tema. I would have thought. Hayol ve'is le Shem Levi. Shem Levi means it has its own name. So Ma'u Tema, I would have thought. Hayol ve'is le Shem Levi. Since it has its own name. When you look at this 7-leaf hadas, what do you call it? Hadas Mitzrah. So you would think, says the Gemara, because it gets its own name, you would think what? Loi mitkasher. It's not kosher. Why? Because when I ask you what's it called, you answer Hadas Mitzrah. It's not a good old-fashioned hadas.
That's why that if it's not this hadas, then it wouldn't.
Oh, answers the Gemara. Kamashmal on the Chiddush is that it is kosher. Asks the Gemara, 1 second, that's a beautiful Sarah. Why is that not emes? Ve'ema hachanami. Maybe this is true. Maybe the fact that it has its own name makes it not kosher. Because l'maisa, it's not a hadas. Answers the Gemara, I think the teretz that you all are anticipating. What did the Torah say? Didn't say hadas. Eitz avos amar Rachmana. The Torah just said it has to be braided. Mikol makayim lamaisa. This is braided. Because this is braided. Here, Nachman Kunu, coming over. No, there's room in the heart, there's room in the table. Let's go. In the mirror, we'd put 5 in this table. Let's go. Says the Gemara. Hey, we got 4 already. Says the Gemara. So we just learned a Meir Dika Chiddush, a few Meir Dika Chiddushim. We just learned that if I were to ask you to define a hadas, no longer should we say a 3-leafed creation, because be'etzem it's not a din in 3, it's a din in a braided creation. That braided could be 3, it could be 5, it could be 7. I don't care. The minimum is 3. Why is the minimum 3? Now it's very gishmak. Because once it's 3, it covers over the stem. If it's not 3, then it's not covering over the stem. So if you start with 7, says the Gemara, and 4 fall off, still there are 3 left. It's still covering over the stem. Therefore, it is kosher.
Apparently the same plant.
Yes, that's very good. And we should speak that out again, Nachamol. Even though it has its own name, Hadas Mitzrah, all it really is, it's a mutation. Which, again, those who know science probably don't like this because it doesn't really make that much sense. But the way that Rashi explains it, look at the top Rashi. Rashi says, what's Hadas Mitzrah? Gadal ala Mitzar. It grows on the boundary, Shel Sada. When we talk Sheish Makim Panoi, because there's a lot of space, Hu Mishabeach, it improves, Umatzliach, and it grows better. Which is just, a little bit interesting to understand. I don't know. Last time I checked, when we were kids, we thought that, you water the plant twice, you're going to grow 2 plants. It's a shtickle schwer to understand, but that is how.
Sense.
Yeah. The second Shana Rashi is that's a different item. It's Adas Mitzri. It's an Egyptian one. Same plant, just grows in a different location in a Chanami. Yeah, I agree with you, but
It also makes more sense with the roiv that 4 fell off. Now you still have 3. Roiv of the leaves fell, and you still have 3. So you have
correct. Now I'll point out if you look at the top Tosfos, it Tosfos addresses a kasha that I'm sure bothered all of you. Tosfos says, what was the Havamina? Because it's called Adas Mitzrah, it's puzzle. We know the Teretz. We know the Torah doesn't say Adas. We just finished all Amid Beis. And all Amid Beis add all these other things that were fine, and the whole VAR was just have to cover it. Fractasis Tema, Maisak Kataitach Lamifsle Mishim Shem Lavai. Because that's a different name, you think it's possible? Media Adas Ksibikra. Or if you hear the Machshirin. And Taisis, by the way, doesn't have a teretz. Taisis is very bothered by the Gemara, which I think when we read the Gemara, we're bothered also. Because we just finished learning the whole Gemara in the bottom. And the Gemara said, what about the hirdoif? What about all these other plants? And it was very clear that what was the nikuda? It had to be a plant that covers the stem. So if it's a plant that covers the stem, why is it a havamina? Oh, because it's called Hadas Mitzrah. If that's a real havamina, then the whole Gemara before doesn't make any sense. Taisa says Tema, and Taisa ends off Shver, and he doesn't have a terrace. Interesting point to note. No, it's true. That Lamaskana, that's Kishmak. What was the Kasha? Gemara the Kasha, maybe because it has a different name, it's possible. Well, why would that be possible? Because it's a different name. It's interesting. It is interesting. And, okay. Sorry? Yeah, it's true. But why would that make it possible? We already learned the Torah doesn't say Adas. The Torah says Eitz Avos. Okay, job further. Let's get to the 2 dots. Tanarabanan. Yavshu Roiv Olav, where 6 lines from the top, 2 lines for the 2 dots. If the majority of the leaves dried up, Vinish Aru Boy, and it's remaining Shloisha Bade Olin, 3 leaves, lachin, that are moist, kosher, it is kosher. V'amarav Chisda, uberoish, kol echad ve'echad. Says Rav Chisda that what? It has to be the top ones. A chiddush has to be the roish. But if it's the bottom ones, then it's not. Meaning Rav Chisda is learning that when can you say as long as there's 3 that's moist, it's kosher? The top 3 are kosher. If the middle 3 or the bottom 3 are the moist ones, right? Look at Rashi. Rashi at the end of the wide lines, Rashi says, let's read 2 Rashi. Shleisha bad the adon lachin. Shleisha badim, 3 leaves. The b'chol bad v'bad, shleisha alin lachin. 3 moist ones. The batzer mi shleisha alin lavi avos. U'b'roish kol echad, she alin alachin b'roish badim, avol b'msayin lav haderhu. So Rashi's learning a chiddush that it's a psul in hadar, which maybe one could ask. What do you mean?
Even if the bottom would dried out.
No, it is possible. That's what I'm saying.
When it dried out,
You say it's still not hadar. Oh, very good. So what do we see? We see that Rav Chisda is giving us a very interesting definition of how we translate hadar by a hadas, which is exactly what you're pointing out. When it comes to an esrog, is it nice or not? Here we have this fascinating translation. Your hadasim are really quite ugly. The whole thing is dried out, but because your top 3 leaves are not, it's okay. But why does that make it hadar? Yeah. For sure. But you show me this detail about the dried out hadasim.
Because if you're holding the
very common.
ananas in the look, most people will see the
What do you mean? You see the whole thing?
covered up.
Maybe. I don't know. No, I just find it interesting that we're allowing Hadar to be so subjective. It's like, I understand that Hadar is how it looks, but the top leaf, it's like you're wild. Okay, that's Chizr of a Chista. Okay, let's stop here. Let's get some good reading in.